Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. Today is a big day for me. Believe me, it is a very big day for me because today me and my friend we too have decided to start the pandemic, and it will be pandemic of happiness. What is this all about? We are going to share with you on this platform in the next 25 to 30 minutes. When I say happiness, I start to believe that it's a state of being happy, simply put. And when I usually say this thing on different platforms, people tend to ask me that what does this word happy really means? Now, what is happiness? What does this word really means? And how we can experience this kind of feeling, if it is just the feeling or experience, whatever it is. We are going to talk about it, not only on happiness. We are going to touch upon the economic wealth of happiness and the study and literature available on this specific term, and why we say that happiness is contagious, why we are going to start this pandemic of happiness, and why I feel myself lucky today to have just a gorgeous person with me today. I'm talking about a happiness coach who is working on this very much terminology in my neighboring country, India. I'm talking about Ajas Hyzer, who is working as happiness coach in India. He is with me on this platform just for you in order to let you comment on our live show. This is just a informal discussion where you can put your questions. Let me welcome Ajas together with you. Assalamu alaikum and hello Ajas, how are you?
Right, Islam, thank you very much. It's a wonderful opportunity for me to share this platform with Shahzad because this is a wonderful topic. At the same time, I got the most valuable person to discuss with in this today. So I hope this will be a very fruitful discussion, not just for both of us, but also for our audience, because it's a sharing platform for all of us. Thank you.
That is great. I'm so much excited with these initial comments from your side. It is always an honor speaking to you. And just in the start of the program, there is a person, there is a friend of ours, Salman Haider, who is saying that looking forward to see a productive, mind-provoking discussion. Another person, another friend of us, Rehan Khalik from Pakistan, is saying hello to you. Here is a person, another one, Azmat Ali Tabassum from UK, and Rehan Khalik is saying good to see you people on a wonderful topic, and I'm sure this will be very interesting discussion, which I am also expecting from you, Ajas. As you have mentioned that you have been working as happiness coach, let my audience know and understand that what this term really means and what this means to you. Before this, you must introduce yourself, that who are you and what you are doing actually.
Oh, well, thank you. Not just a formal introduction, as you told, I have been working as a happiness coach. At the same time, I'm also a business consultant. I help small and medium scale companies to scale up their business, streamline their business. That is one part of my profession. And other than that, one of my major core areas is happiness coaching. As you know, that the coaching industry has grown leaps and bounds in the last couple of decades. Probably in the last 10 to 15 years, it has grown in a bigger way. Because though the professional coaching is a very recent term, but the coaching has been there in the history of mankind from the very beginning. Our family system is a form of coaching. The social system, the social setup, the friend circle is a type of coaching. And now the coaching has been formalized in the, as a profession, and people professionally use this coaching. And why this happiness coaching is an interesting topic, because I believe the core intention of every human activity is happiness, nothing else. We are having food, or we are having water to quench our thirst, but ultimately it reaches in some form of happiness or the other. We are going to work, we do something, we earn something, and we buy something out of which, and ultimately the ultimate destiny of every human endeavor is happiness. But what actually happens is people often forget this thing. We often get indulged in the tasks, and we often forget that the final destiny is happiness. So the duty of a happiness coach is just rekindle that desire for happiness in each person, And one more thing I have to say that happiness is different for different people. Many of our friends are online now watching this. And for every single person, the meaning of happiness, the definition of happiness is different. So, coaching means actually helping them, guiding them in their path to find their inner happiness so that they can reach the truest potential of their happiness levels. That is all about what I do in the capacity of a happiness coach.
So my excitement was correct that in the first few minutes of the show or discussion, you have unfolded, unwrapped another reality for my understanding that happiness means different for different people, and it is possible that the level of happiness for me might be different from the level of happiness which is required by for Ajas. This is beautiful concept given to by you. Let me ask you another question for my understanding that if that is the real meaning of happiness, then why? You are saying that it is very much possible and lies within my limits to be on the extreme level of happiness because it is owned by me as already. If that is the case, then why people are found to be scarcity or adversity, or you must say that scarce driven in terms of happiness? Why people are seen that much often not happy at all? So if your definition is valid, then why this imbalance is created in the society around us?
Right. Thank you for asking that question because it is the core reason that we all have to address. I would say that it is a cultural issue. In many of our culture, irrespective of our country, around the globe in multiple cultures, we could see that not just in the case of happiness, in case of the financial abundance, in case of happiness abundance, in case of relationship intimacy abundance, in all these things, we can either have the abundance thinking or the scarcity thinking. Unfortunately, I would say that we are trained in that scarcity thinking in terms of our relationship, in terms of our money, in terms of happiness. That we often feel that we are the resource of happiness is limited, so that scarcity thing happens there. So we just don't realize the feel that it's an infinite amount of happiness all around, and it's not just like a natural resources like the crude oil that you take it out and it vanishes. Not that way. It's something which you can synthesize for infinite amount of volume, you can say. So what happens is the happiness is produced in an environment which is conductive of happiness, but unhappiness or sadness or any other unpleasant emotions are produced in an environment which is conductive for that too. So, as a society, we are not much familiar with creating an environment which produces happiness. So that is where the rather than a happiness coach, I would say that like-minded people should start a happiness movement. That means teaching people, making them aware of the abundant happiness opportunity around us and tapping that opportunity and creating happiness. Let me just point out one more thing. That is creating happiness or synthesizing happiness. This is one of the major points that I always advocate for. That is, we can synthesize happiness. Happiness is not a noun, it's a verb. That is something that we do. It is happiness as a state is the end result of something that we actively do. So, we as a society, we as a group of people, we as a friend circle, we as a family, start creating that happiness. Definitely, it will replicate it. It has a ripple effect. You start a small thing and ripple, it becomes big. So, as an individual, you can just initiate that creation of happiness. Then, as a family, as a society, as a community as a whole, we can all think of creating the ripple effect of happiness, which will ultimately result in the abundant happiness all around us.
Ajas, I cannot stop asking you a question that you're talking that much in detail about happiness. Let us know that where do you learn all these things? Are you or have you taken any degree or any course, or what is behind all that wisdom you are sharing with us?
Is the sound okay now?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you hear my question? Last question. Was I audible in my last question? You please unmute
Could you
your
please
mic.
repeat? Yeah, could you please repeat?
Yeah, I was saying that you are talking that much in detail about happiness. I cannot stop myself to ask this question that all the wisdom coming from your end reflects me that you have acquired this knowledge from somewhere. So the question is, did you have taken any degree or there are any mentors or certification from where all this knowledge and wisdom is coming? Please share us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to share that. I would say that this journey started, it's a self journey because when I look at myself, happiness was one of the core values. I would say there are four core values in my life. One is love, an unconditional love towards humanity. The second one is happiness. The third one is giving, be a go giver, not a go getter, be a go giver. And the fourth one is sharpness in analysis and all those things. And coming back to the major point, that is the happiness. For me, as a in the capacity of a trainer, in the capacity of a coach, I was always trying to gain knowledge from all around the world. And one of the major, as you asked about the certification, I am a certified happiness coach from the organization, Tony Hsieh's organization, Delivering Happiness. It's an international organization. Tony Hsieh and his company, Zappos, is a worldwide example for creating a happy culture in the organization. And that's how creating positive impact in the business world and in the general society as a whole. So, in fact, I have done a course from Tony Hsieh's company, Delivering Happiness, and there is an organization in India called Happitude, which also gives this happiness coaching certification. I've been trained in all that thing. And after that, in India, we have conducted some trainers training workshop for happiness trainers and coaches.
Amazing, Ajas. All the well wishes for you. Let me ask you that if happiness is that much important that you have already placed it in your four core pillars of even if your own life, and international bodies are working on that much extent on this terminology. Let me ask you that if I am to search for happiness, how and from where to get this happiness, and how to make it contagious across geographical boundaries we have. Can we work around all the globe, planet Earth for this happiness, or we can go to any shop to buy it? How much expensive it would be, and what to do with that product if we get it from the showcase? Let us share your wisdom upon that.
Thank you. Where can we find happiness is a broad question which is to be addressed in different levels, I would say. First, we should address it at a personal level, truly personal level, or we could say intrapersonal level. The second one is the interpersonal level as a society, interpersonal level. The third part is as a government or as a governing body, in the bigger perspective. Let me just address all this first, second, and third. The first is the intrapersonal level, that is happiness from within. So this is the most important part, because unless we transform ourselves, we cannot spread that happiness. So the intrapersonal level is, I would say that finding the true, that's why I just told about the core values, the four pillars, the four core values I said. Every single person in this planet has a purpose in life. And that purpose, life purpose, is deeply rooted on the core values of his life. Just like the different definition of happiness, the core values are also different for different people. So that intrapersonal is a search within, or I would say a look within, looking within ourselves, and we find out the true core values within us, so that once we are able to do justice to that core values, that brings about the personal level of happiness. That's all about the first level, the personal level of happiness.
The second one is the interpersonal, that is the societal level of happiness. That means, as an individual, you just look at the case of we people. We spent almost half of our life in our workplace. So the workplace happiness is very much important, because see, in a 24-hour day, say we spend 8 hours for sleep or something like that, and the rest 16 hours, more than 8 hours, that means half of our productive time, the awakened time, is spent in our workplace. So the happiness at workplace is very much important. And the second thing is our personal space, including our family, including our social circle. So in the interpersonal level of happiness, we should start a culture where the importance of happiness is like, once you start giving it, it becomes it reciprocates. I would say the law of reciprocity works like here. Once you start giving happiness, it comes back to you in multifold. So in workplaces, in family, in our social circle, we should create some happiness practices. That is the most important thing. Happiness practices where we share happiness and we accelerate the happiness. And the third part is what governments or such bodies can do. 2 years back, I think our organization were associated with Dubai government, because Dubai is the first country where they appointed a minister for happiness. There is a ministry of happiness over there. And we associated with Dubai government, and we set up a happiness factory over there in Dubai, where we just set up a happiness environment in Sharjah Golf and Shooting Club. And there we just given trainings and coaching for corporates and general public for that happiness. The thing is that in the last 2-3 years, Dubai has grown up in the happiness index much way, because and there are in globally we have some more best examples. One example is our neighboring country Bhutan. In most of our countries, we just measure the growth of our nation in terms of GDP, gross domestic production. But in Bhutan, they have another index called GHI, Gross Happiness Index. As a nation, Bhutan just measures their growth in terms of the level of happiness in the people. So, because now we are facing a major crisis, a global crisis called COVID-19 outbreak and all those issues. Now, at least this is the right time for a major shift for governments to shift from this economic terms of growth. Definitely the economic terms, the economic growth are important. At the same time, a nation's true growth means the level of happiness, the growth in the level of happiness of the people. Just I'll conclude this with this thought, food for thought. That is, just think, because now we are about to face an economic crisis. That means many of the people who are not economically privileged will face some financial challenges after the COVID-19 outbreak. We are going to face that. Suppose we promote the happiness, and promoting happiness means it will definitely promote the sharing and caring mentality among people. Suppose if we could develop such a sharing and caring mentality, though people will definitely be able to share the happiness, at the same time they'll be also able to share the resources, including the financial resources. So this would be the best method that we can face the economic challenges that may come after the COVID-19.
Okay, that was descriptive, and I understand in the terms which you have used that there is a Ministry of Happiness, and you have told about Happiness Factory, and then you have shared the example of Bhutan. This is really amazing, and this is thought provoking. And I was reading an article that happiness economics is also in subject to read about, and happiness economics is to attach your economics of wealth with the term happiness. And unlike this financial economics, happiness economics says that it is linked with psychology, sociology, and health factor as well. So we have so far not have touched upon health related with the happiness. How do you relate this happiness and health? Are they directly proportional? And if yes, how to maintain them?
Yeah, there has been lot of studies how the happiness level of a person affects the health and well-being. In the healthcare industry, there are two approaches. One is the sickness industry and one is the wellness industry, you could say. The sickness industry is focused on the illness, and once you got ill, how can you rectify that through the medicines, through the surgery and all those proceedings. Contrary to that, there is a wellness domain of healthcare. That means it's not about the illness, it's all about the wellness. What we actually need is to keep our wellness. That means to stay healthy. Staying healthy, not just physically, staying healthy mentally is also important, because as you know that mind and body are the part of the same system. If some of our physical ailments affect affect us mentally, definitely our mental ailments, including unhappiness, will affect us physically. Many of the diseases which are termed as the psychosomatic means the physiological diseases which are induced by the psychological reasons, the unhappiness, stress levels, anxiety, all those things. So there are most of the serious diseases, including the terminal diseases, has a psychological background also, which can be means the root of many of the diseases can be found out in the psychological unhappiness and all those unpleasant emotions that people are facing. So in terms of the wellness, the healthcare wellness domain of the healthcare, maintaining a happy life, maintaining a tranquil, peaceful life is very much important. If you just look at the serotonin, dopamine effect, that is the happiness chemicals that is being released during the happy times. So this is very crucial in maintaining the wellness of a person.
Okay, with this COVID-19 coming into the scene, making us self-isolated and confined to our homes, what do you think that, what if I ask you the why concept of happiness becomes more important nowadays, and how to put happiness over fear, because it's fear of unknown everywhere nowadays. And in the meantime, before you answer the question, Afshan Sheikh has joined us, and she says that a very nice effort, Shahzad. And another friend of us, Hasib Emanur, is here. He's saying that this is wonderful and very informative. And credit goes to you, Ajas. And now coming back to the question that how to put happiness over fear in current times.
Well, happiness and fear, of course, both are in the different opposite ends. So how does that fear happens? Fear has actually it starts from the uncertainty. The peak of the uncertainty retail as fear. Though we should be see a happy a person with a higher level of emotional maturity, we can accept this fear in two terms. What is fear? The best definition of fear is you're about to encounter an uncertain situation. You don't know what is actually going to happen, and you are about to encounter it. Develop as a sense of an emotion of feariness. We can do one thing. Adventure is also the same way. In adventure also, you are about to encounter an uncertain situation. Once we are able to accept that situation, it becomes adventure. If you are not able to accept that situation, it becomes fear. So in this COVID-19 outbreak,
I really can relate. I really can relate with your this terminology of fear, because once I was there in Malaysia on a bungee jumping platform, and we were three friends. And when one friend of ours was an experienced guy, he pushed me to be the number one to go into that experience, and I was really afraid. And the moment I jumped from that platform, it was all adventure, as you have already mentioned. But there was another friend of ours who was feared that much, to that extent that he came back from that platform's last inch. He came back and he was not able to cross that fear barrier. So you are very rightly saying that it is all the fear versus happiness.
perfect, Shahzad. Thank you for bringing that example. I'll explain with that same example. that is the bungee jumping. There are two emotions you can have, either the excitement of that adventure or the fear of the unknown. And let me just explain it with the comfort zone and discomfort zone. People have four zones. The inner zone, which we are familiar with, called the comfort zone. The second one is the fear zone, because when we step out of the from familiar to unfamiliar, we reach in the fear zone. The third is the learning zone. After the fear zone, there is something called as the learning zone, where you face something unknown and you learn something out of it. And the fourth phase, the outer phase, is the growth zone. There is actually the growth, the personal growth happens. So unless and until we step out of our comfort zone to fear zone, then to learning zone, then to growth zone, our growth will be limited. So wonderful, because once you step out of that fear zone, you reached in that growth zone. Now you feel so confident regarding that bungee jumping exercise, I assume. So this is happens. So whichever uncertain situation, let it be an economic recession, let it be a pandemic outbreak, we can just step out of our comfort zone to the growth zone, explore all possibilities, so that we can personally transform and we can pass on that transformation to our society.
Here we are with a quote of Mahatma Gandhi, who says, "The happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony." There three things are being mentioned: thinking process, and whatever you are announcing and preaching all the time, and whatever your actions are. All these three, when complement each other, they become happiness. What do you say about it?
Yeah, that's such a profound thought by Gandhi. Actually, this the core idea behind this quote is the thought cycle, what we call as the thought cycle. That is, everything starts from a thought, then it is expressed in the form of words and deeds, and the repeated words and deeds becomes our habit and becomes our character and our destiny. So, who a person is defined by his thoughts, words, and deeds. And there is a simple there is a joke in our place which is called if you are always honest, you don't need to have big memory, because you if you tell some lie, you will have to keep that lie in your memory always, because in the next time also you repeat the same lie. But if you are always honest, you need not to memorize what you already told, because whenever you are speaking truth, we can speak from your heart. You need not to manipulate something. So the definition given by Gandhi regarding the happiness is, that is the harmony between our thoughts, our words, and our actions. When I express something, if I express my feelings, whatever I think within me, express it honestly before you through my words, and whatever feeling I have, I, without any manipulation, I put it into practice. That is the highest form of happiness, because we are doing justice to ourselves. So this is a beautiful definition of happiness. I would say no better explanation for happiness than this.
Very nice. Ajas, let us know that if happiness is that much important, yeah, you have been always emphasizing on this thing, and you are saying that it is the main ingredient, or what to say other than it is DNA or the lifeblood of person. If that much important it is, then I would ask you that what it is going to be the techniques of retaining happiness all around you all the time. If once it is achieved from that happiness factory or from that ministry and anywhere else or from within, once it is achieved, how to retain it, how to sustain it? Let's share something upon that.
Thank you. That's more. That question was more onto the practical strategies of being happy. Let me just give you three tips. The first and foremost tip is identifying the happiness inducers in you. For every single person, there are certain situations or there are certain acts that give you happiness. Suppose you listen to music that makes you happy. You go for a nature walk, you become happy. You talk to somebody whom you are very close to, you become happy. That means we should have at least 5 to 10 strategies, 5 to 10 actions that makes us instantly happy. See, have a checklist of the things that makes you happy, and whenever you want to be happy, just start the action, 1 or 2 or 3 actions. That is the thing. And the second one is some happiness practices. One is happiness action, the second one is happiness practices. Happiness practices, one of the best happiness practices is meditation. Meditation doesn't mean you just close your eyes and sit in a certain posture for a long time, not just like that. You can just close your eyes at any time and listen to your inner thoughts for 60 seconds, just 1 minute. That's even a meditation. So having such kind of happiness practices every time as a routine, have a scheduled time for that. So happiness action and happiness practices are the second thing. The third one is the happiness environments. That is your friend circle, your family circle. See, some situations, some environments where you become happy. So make such intentionally make such kind of environments that will also make happy. These are the 3 tips that I can give you: happiness action, happiness practices, and happiness environments.
This is simply amazing again. Ajas, when we talk about fear, when we talk about happiness practicing and happiness that, here comes another quote from Qaeda Muhammad Ali Jinnah this time, who says that if you will work in cooperation, forgetting the past, burying the hatchet, you are bound to succeed. Now, this cooperation and happiness, how you relate these two things? Burying the past, forgetting the past, working in cooperation is guarantee to success. Is that another thing apart from that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's again a wonderful insight on the concept of happiness. I would say, let me just take the word cooperation. Cooperation means we are cooperating between. And let me just connect with the previous idea that we were discussing about the abundance of happiness. There is abundance of happiness, there is no scarcity of happiness. So normally, why the happiness is affected, why there is not much happiness in our society is because people believe that there is a scarcity of happiness, so that they don't share, but they compete for happiness. Competition is the opposite of cooperation. So what exactly I would say is a new word called co-opetition. That is the cooperation between among the competitors. Even though you are competitors, you can cooperate among you. In case of happiness, as there is abundance of happiness, we should practice competition in happiness. That is cooperation among the competitors. In whichever way, professionally we may be competitors, in terms of business we may be competitors, in terms of achievement of something we may be competitors. That doesn't mean that we have to compete each other, we can cooperate. So the cooperation between among the competitors, which is called as the competition. For happiness also, we should cooperate, or we should have a culture of competition among the competitors.
I think that you have a skill which I must appreciate, and the skill says that you make many difficult things look so easy to understand. That is beauty. That is, I think, unique to you. And now, before I go to the next question, Rehan is saying a very interesting question he has for you. He says that question to Ajas is how to manage insecurity at workplace with happiness. I repeat it, how to manage insecurity at workplace with happiness. How to manage, there are two things, insecurity and happiness, number one. Number two, he says further to extending the question, I mean position insecurity. For example, if you are in at a specific designation in the organizational hierarchy and you are feeling insecure at that designation, how to convert that insecurity of position with happiness, how to swap it up. And before you answer it, let me have another addition to it, that Azmat Ali Tabassum is saying that can happiness be related to pay raise? If you are getting much more pay, it means that you are going to be more happy than a person who is on your similar scale but having less pay than you. What do you say about it?
Right. Let me just address the second question first. That is the happiness and pay. There was an international study. I think it was conducted by Harvard or something long back. I don't remember the source of that study, but that says a pay, how far a pay rise can make a person, an employee, happy. It says the effect of a pay rise will diminish starting from the second week of the pay rise. Within 2 to 3 months, people will forget that pay rise and they will taken it for granted. That means there is no longer that effect of a pay rise. So whichever
Don't tell me this, Ajas. Don't tell me this, Ajas, because many of the people are going to start doing negative things, because this is very sensitive topic. You're saying that no pay raise is going to be make you more happy, isn't it?
definitely pay rise is going to make a person happy, make an employee happy, but the question is how long will it last? The researchers shows from 2 weeks to 2 months, 14 days to 60 days. After that, people will take it for granted, they will take it as a right, and they won't, that pay rise won't make you happier anymore. See, in the when you get the first paycheck, after that you will be happy, definitely. The second month you will be happy. From third month onwards, it becomes your new natural. There is nothing more excitement in the pay raise. It is expected, right? Your higher pay is expected. You will set yourself up to that life standards. You are definitely probably just along with the pay raise, your lifestyle will increase, your monthly expenses will increase, so that it will have no more impact after 2 to 3 months. This is a research report. So definitely in a short term, the pay rise may have some certain level of happiness booster for somebody else, but after some time people will definitely, because once we are familiar with that, there is no excitement in that thing, right? So
Okay, Ajas, let me know that once you have achieved happiness, found out happiness somehow, working on your suggestions, we have started retaining it. Now it is sustained. But we see around us that there are some drainers, there are some factors or humans or relationships or any other thing which tend to drain out that happiness from our personalities. Now the question is that how to identify those happiness drainers and how to keep a check on them, so that they must keep away from us and we may sustain that happiness which we have already acquired.
right, wonderful question. Because one more question is there pending regarding the happiness and the insecurity, and this question is also connected with that. See, how shall we deal with the happiness drainers? In fact, the insecurity is one of the classical case of happiness drainers. So I'll explain this happiness drainers with the example that our beloved friend asked earlier, that is regarding the insecurity. The happiness drainers are of two types: internal and external. I'm sorry. The external happiness drainers are the things that we have no control, or things we have little
Ajas,
control.
you have coughed. Take care of yourself, because COVID is all about it.
Thank you, thank you. I'll make sure that it's not covered. Thank you. So the question was, how shall we deal with the happiness drainers? And I'll take the insecurity as an example, which is an inner reason. There are inner drainers and there are external drainers. The internal drainers are this kind of insecurity, lack of confidence, anxiety, a number of things are there. But the thing is that we have to make sure, or it's a realization, all the happiness drainers are within us, not outside. When our friend asked, what shall we do with the insecurity at workplace? There is nothing called insecurity at workplace. There is a single insecurity that is not at workplace, that is within that person. The only reason is that that insecurity is only manifested in the workplace. That doesn't mean that it's only there. No, that insecurity is within that person, but at this point of time the insecurity is manifested at workplace. But definitely it may manifest in the family, it may manifest in the social situations, it may manifest in his friend circle. So what we need to do is we have to understand the root cause, that is the happiness drainer, that is the insecurity. So there can be a lot of reasons where that insecurity were born, where that insecurity were nurtured in that person, which become a deep rooted belief in that person. So what is to be done is first understand the root cause where that insecurity originates, and just address that thing. Have the courage to face it, face that insecurity, address it step by step, eliminate it from your life. What we can do to eliminate insecurity is just it's not just like it can be replaced with the opposite of that security feeling. If confidence is the best remedy for insecurity, so you replace that insecurity with confidence, so that that inner happiness drainer will be out of your life. So you won't feel that insecurity in your workplace nor anywhere in your life. So that is the best approach.
That will make man free to fly anywhere he wants, and that is a beautiful concept. Regarding that last answer which you gave, our friend Azmat Adi Tabassum says that it would be appropriate to say that organization culture will keep you happy and motivated, and this is the comment instead of the question, and I really agree with the Azmat Adi Tabassum here that organization's culture definitely matters, and it matters a lot, and it is more important than the pay raise, in fact. And lastly, you were saying that happiness tends to come from within. So the insecurities goes same way. When insecurity goes same way, it means that you can keep yourself happy whatever the circumstances are, right? And if that is the case, that you can keep yourself happy every time, then the question arises in one's mind that if for example I am going to decide that I'm going to remain happy whatever the circumstances may be, is it possible for me to keep myself happy and remain that way even when I'm surrounded by unhappy or afraid people around me? For example, if I'm living with Ajas, and Ajas is talking about all the negative things all the time, day and night. I'm looking forward towards the fear of unknown. I'm not sure about future. Is that possible that amid all those unhappy or afraid people, I can keep myself sustained with that happiness?
Right. So we need to just clarify the definition of a happy person. A happy person doesn't mean a person who is happy, who is feeling only feeling, experiencing happy emotions 100% all the time. Not like that. That happy person doesn't mean the absence of unpleasant emotions. Definitely, it's a reality in life. We have to be realistic towards the happiness also. That is, happiness or a happy person doesn't mean the absence of unpleasant emotions. It is the altogether, because if you take a person in a day, in 24 hours, the happiness, the feeling of happiness should dominate. That is the most important thing. The dominant emotion should be happiness, number one. And the second thing, we should never allow the unhappy, unpleasant emotions to be above the happy feelings, because we may at times we may experience unhappy emotions, but after that our ability to switch back to happiness emotions is what makes a person happy. So it's not about 100% happiness, it's about retaining that happiness even after the unpleasant emotions.
I usually say to the people on this platform that I have came across many people from different nationalities, from different walks of life, and I'm surprised to know, and I'm happy indeed to understand that all these people, including you today, you all people speak same language. You use similar codes, and this is not confined to happiness only. Whatever you're saying is also related and goes well for success or happiness or hope or faith and all that stuff. So you're saying that happiness is not means that a person is bound to remain happy all the time. It's the feeling which must come on top of the other feelings which do exist. And whenever we are going to acknowledge the existence of all the feelings, we'll make ourselves a complete personality and character. And that is beautiful, beautiful phenomena to have from your side. Now, since we are running short of time, and that is the most painful part for my all the guests, that I tend to lose the check on time. The discussion goes that much in a flow that I tend to fail in time management, which is in fact my flagship program in my training programs. Let me know that in your macro environment, when fearful conditions are that much prevailing that exist today, Ajas Hyzer, if I ask Ajas Hyzer that how Ajas is going to keep himself happy all the time or most of the time, in your words, in this kind of situation, what Ajas is doing on his typical day, what your typical day looks like for just being a role model for many of us. You share your personal practices and details, whatever you find appropriate to share.
Wonderful. I think it's time for us to conclude the session. So I'll just a brief of a typical day, and I'll just give the insight on what it is. So during the lockdown period or before that, in both cases, what I think is I just give priority to things that makes me happy. What makes me happy doesn't mean that that process makes me happy. Sometimes some of the tasks may be unpleasant for me during that time, but it ultimately makes me happy because it comes under my priority. So what comes under my priority? Simply saying, whichever fulfills my life's purpose comes in my priority. So even if I'm in the lockdown period, I'll make sure that I give priorities to those tasks, those actions, which will contribute in a positive way to fulfilling my life's purpose. So spending a day fulfilled is all about setting priorities. To set priorities, we should have the clarity of our goals and the clarity on our life's purpose. So this is what I do, which whenever I set my timetable for a day, I make sure that only the things that deserves priority, only the things that contributes to my life goal and purpose comes in the top. Okay. And finally, to conclude, I think I'll just because it just came to my mind, because we discussed the economy, happiness economy. There's an interesting concept in transaction analysis. It's a school of thought in psychology that I follow in TA, transaction analysis. There is a similar term which just came to my mind now. So I'll finish our session with that thing. That's about a stroke economy, just like happiness economy in terms of transaction analysis. It is called stroke. Stroke means a unit of recognition. And we can say that a positive stroke is when I say something positive to Shahzad, that is a positive stroke from my side to you. So there are 5 rules in this stroke economy. So I'll finish it with this, saying that 5 rule, and I hope it will be beneficial to all who watches this program. The 5 rules are: the rule number 1, give positive to stroke to everybody whenever you have a chance. When I have a chance for appreciation, when I have a chance for saying a positive words towards somebody, give that opportunity. You just give that positive stroke. That is the rule number 1. Give positive strokes to people. The second one is receive positive strokes whenever you have it. Because during this session, Mr. Shahzad has given me a lot of positive strokes, and I thankfully accepted that thing, receiving that, because unless I don't receive it, it doesn't have any impact on me. So you receive the positive strokes, give positive strokes, receive positive strokes. The third one is ask for strokes. When you want strokes, you can ask for strokes. Don't wait that somebody gives you positive stock. You can demand for that stock and you can ask for that stock. The fourth one is you can reject negative stocks. As you told earlier, you asked me, if you are around people who always say negative, what can you do? You can just reject that thing. You can do not let that negative things in. So you can reject negative stocks. And finally, give yourself stock. Just take your hands, just give a pat on your back and give yourself stock. These are the 5 rules that will build a positive economy. Give positive stocks, receive it, ask for when you need it, reject the negative stocks, and give yourself stocks. So these are the 5 rules that we can follow.
This is out of the world, beautifully put, and nothing was more appropriate to complete the session with that much comprehensive 5 rules. We had started discussion today, Ajas, with you, where you shared us that happiness is different for different people. Happiness is the final destiny, and we should. You told us that there are 3 levels to work upon: personal level, interpersonal level, and then governmental level. You had told us about happiness factory and that ministry, and that was quite new concept for me as well. You have talked about wellness and fear of the unknown. You have turned about 5 to 10 actions which make us happy. We must identify them. Happiness action, practice them, and then you have told about competition and cooperation. That was the concept. Another one touched upon by yourself. And insecurity is within the person. Answering one of the questions from the audience, you told us that insecurity lies within, not outside in the external environment. And then you told us that happy person also has unpleasant emotions. It is very much possible that there is a combination of emotions a person carries day and night, and giving priority to things which make you happy, you can remain yourself, you can keep yourself happy all the day when you give priority to the things which make you happy. And last but certainly not least, you have touched upon 5 rules regarding stock, and all this was encompassed and wrapped up with the purpose of life. And we all must have a purpose to drive our life towards, and that is the main level reason of our existence. With all that, I really appreciate your time and your wisdom sharing with us, with the hope that you are going to take very best care of yourself and your family and for the whole world. Today, with this episode being concluded, we both, me and Ajas, as 2 brothers and 2 human beings, 2 friends, we are hereby announcing that we are going to start the pandemic of happiness, because to us happiness is contagious and it is for the whole world. Thank you very much once again, Ajas. Take care and bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.